I'm going to stick my neck on the block and say Nigel Farage is not going to win.
Really?
Really?
Clacton?
Yeah.
Who's going to win? The Tory?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'll probably have egg on my face. But,
I didn't think he was to start with. I think he is now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Division Bell. I'm Martyn Brown, Deputy Political Editor of the Daily Express. We're just 2 days from the general election, and Sam Lister can't be here today, so you got me instead.
And I'm Mikey Smith. John Stevens is busy interviewing Keir Starmer today, so you've got me instead. I'm the Deputy Political Editor of the Sunday Mirror.
Yeah, Sam's interviewing the current Prime Minister, and John's interviewing the Prime Minister in waiting, I believe.
Well, you know, if the polls are to be believed, yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that I think makes us the battle of the deputies, doesn't it?
We are the deputies, the B team. I'm probably the Oliver Dowden of the Daily Express.
I think that makes me the Angela Rayner of the Sunday Mirror. But this is interesting because. And I'm skipping ahead here slightly, but and I feel like if no one's written this already, I'm going to have to write this in the office as soon as we get out of this studio. But as we understand it, the first PMQs of the new Parliament, the new government, is going to be a battle of the deputies, because Keir Starmer is, in all likelihood, if he wins, he's going to be sent to NATO straight away, pretty much, and he's going to be in Washington on the Wednesday. So
that's right. It's going to be rubbing shoulders with Joe Biden and Macron and the rest of them, and that means that he won't be there to do PMQs. So tradition says that the deputies step in. Now that would be Angela Rayner, presumably in the Labour's case, but who knows whether if Rishi Sunak will still be around. His deputy has always been Oliver Dowden, so it could be Rayner versus Dowden, which is a bit of a letdown, really, because you wait all this time, until the election, and then the first opportunity to grill the Prime Minister, and he's not there. But he can't. It's not his fault.
Imagine getting your popcorn out, getting ready for this first big clash of the new government, and Oliver Dowden steps out. It's by far from guaranteed it's going to be him. There are so many what ifs, or so many things that we don't know yet. Is Rishi Sunak going to keep his seat? Could the Tories pull something out and win the election? Are they even going to be the main opposition? There are some polls that are suggesting that the Lib Dems, it could be Daisy Cooper. You never know.
God help us.
It could be Angela Rayner versus Daisy Cooper.
Oh my gosh.
Which would be fun, I think.
This is the last Division Bell before the polls open. And so why don't we just kind of do a hop, skip and a jump through what happens between now and the next episode of the Division Bell?
Yeah, exciting. So between, I said it's the last rattle of the campaign. What I will be doing today is going through all the stories I've got on a shelf that I haven't managed to get out the door yet.
Such as?
Nice try. Inevitably you're going to have some stories left that you really want to try and get into the paper and onto the website before the polls open. So that's what I'll be doing today. And lots of people have promised to try and get stories into the paper. May end up being disappointed, but we'll do our best. I will type as fast as I can.
We're on repeat mode now, aren't we? They've both, all parties have come to the end of their messaging, and now it's just repeat until Wednesday night, when they will hold their final campaign rallies. And we're just going to hear the same message over and over again until it all stops, and then everyone goes to the polls and casts their vote. Yeah,
and Thursday's always an interesting one. The election day itself, when people are all going out to vote, because obviously the broadcasters have got very strict rules about what they can broadcast once polls are open. So it goes from wall to wall politics all day, every day, to absolutely nothing. and as a result, the campaigns kind of shut down their campaigning on Thursday. So there's no events, there's no visits or anything. You get the photo ops in the morning where people cast their votes, usually. Although that didn't happen at the local elections last time. Rishi Sunak didn't do a photo op. It was really weird. But sort of as a result of that, all the websites and newspapers have got to look into during that day is dogs at polling stations. That's why dogs at polling stations exist, because there's nothing else to write about.
We've got people on the bus today, on the Tory bus today. Got a reporter on the bus, and no doubt we'll be staffing the end of campaign rallies. I remember in 2019 being sent to the Labour end of campaign rally it was in East London, Hackney or Dalston or somewhere around there, in a warehouse, and oh my goodness, it was like a hard left campaign rally. There was singers and guitar players singing these angry protest songs.
Did Brian Eno show up?
Was it one of those? Yeah. Jeremy Corbyn obviously there, and it scarred me, to be fair. It really did scar me. So I'm hoping for no repeat of that this year. I don't think there will be.
No, I was trying to think back about sort of interesting things that have happened to me on the campaign trail over the years. This is the 5th election I've covered, which is seems weird to me. But the one that comes back strongest wasn't actually an election campaign. It was the referendum campaign, the Brexit referendum campaign. And I can reveal to you that I was on Bob Geldof's boat at the Battle of the Thames. Now, for anyone who's not as weird as us and doesn't know what the Battle of the Thames is. So the Battle of the Thames was about a week out from the referendum vote. It was the Wednesday before, I think. And Nigel Farage had arranged this flotilla, this mini fleet of fishermen and dinghies, and some big boats, some little boats, and they were going to sail up the Thames. I think there was going to be a stunt where they poured a load of fish off the side of the boat in protest against fishing quotas from the EU, etc. Obviously, the fishermen were being a bit kind to Nigel Farage, who was a member of the EU Fishing Committee and never turned up to any of the meetings. But that aside, I got a phone call the night before from a mysterious person saying Bob Geldof's got a boat, and he's gonna spoil it. He's gonna sail up the Thames and find Nigel and spoil his day. And I just got on this boat, and it had a massive sound system on it. It had speakers everywhere, and you'll have seen the pictures of Bob Geldof flicking the V's at
Are you going to do the gesture?
Farage. I'm not going to do the gesture. It's a family show. But there was a lot of outcry about Bob Geldof flicking the V's at fishermen, and he wasn't. He was flicking the V's at Nigel Farage, which seems like a perfectly reasonable position to me. And yelling at him over his microphone and all this. And I remember being on the phone to a colleague at the time, a former colleague now, trying to explain where I was and what I was doing, because he was stuck doing PMQs on his own. And I was explaining myself, and I said, well, Nigel Farage has got more boats, but Bob's got a bigger sound system, was all I could come up with.
All important. I think the closest we got to that this campaign was in Henley. Rishi Sunak was doing an interview, and Daisy Cooper and some Lib Dems sailed past in the background, but there was no flicking of the V's or anything.
Not that we could see. She was quite far away.
What have been the highlights for you of the campaign so far? What were the key moments?
I think D-Day. You got to say D-Day. Just every sort of decision that went into Rishi Sunak coming home before that D-Day event in the afternoon, just staying for the morning, not staying for the afternoon, and coming home to do an ITV interview, or coming home and doing an ITV interview. They say it was planned ahead of time and all this. But I just can't imagine being in Normandy, looking around and seeing everything that was going on and not getting like a sense of maybe the Prime Minister should stay here. I think there might be, some things I should either see or take part in. And no one stopped him. I think if he'd gone to the French and said, I want to stay, actually. Turns out I'd like to stay. Can you get us an extra chair? I don't think they would have gone, no, you must leave, doors over there. How about you? What was your highlight?
Yeah, I mean, that was a big moment. The three key things, three things I think people will remember in 10 years' time will be the rain at the beginning, the D-Day, and probably the betting scandal as well. But also the return of Farage has spiced it up as well, which probably we should talk about because the Tories are fighting two fronts, really. They're warning of this Labour supermajority, partly to suppress the Labour vote, partly to encourage some disillusioned voters, waverers, to get out there and vote for them. But also they're fighting Reform, who are threatening to, certainly on percentage-wise, to be to overtake the Tories. And Farage's return is... I wrote about it the other day. It started with fireworks, but I've been covering him for the best part of 2 decades. First you get the fireworks, and then you get the toxic stench, as there's inevitably some controversy. Yeah, and that's what we've seen here. And one of the interesting things for me would be to see if that is impacting on the polls. Will the Reform vote dip, and how many MPs they can expect?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, the Reform's polling has slightly dipped already, but it's still within the margin of error, which is 3% either way. Or is it 1.5% either way? I don't know. In any case, their polling's dipped already. It's hard to say whether that's as a result of the toxic stuff, because a certain part of me thinks that is priced in for a lot of Reform voters. And the polls rationalise towards the end of a campaign anyway. Labour's lead was supposed to contract. That hasn't happened. It hasn't happened significantly anyway. But it's not. A huge number of people say they haven't made up their mind, or that their mind might change sometime between now and polling day. And I think a lot of that is, expected. I have a suspicion that a lot of the toxicity is priced in. If it isn't, then people just haven't been paying attention. There've been. I personally have written about. I've lost count of the number of Reform and going back to Brexit Party and UKIP candidates who they've had to disown because they've found some tweets or they've said something on camera. And there is clearly something about what Nigel Farage is bringing to the table that attracts toxic personalities, people who have unpleasant views. And so Nigel always does this thing. He does this bit. He did it on the telly on Sunday. He did it at his speech. Was it Saturday night, Sunday night? Where he says, I've done more to battle, organised racism in this country than anyone. I took down the BNP. He didn't. What I think he did was he created a party and has sort of kept it going, which is a legitimate party. It has some chance of winning elections, but can also, if you don't talk about it too loud, be a home for people who hold those views. And it's a very small number of people in this country, let's not forget. But I think his I always feel like when he says I took down the BNP, it's kind of like him saying I'm not racist, but
there's always a but.
There's always a but.
And what it does since Thursday, where Channel 4 did this expose and this canvasser Andrew Parker made horrendous comments about the Prime Minister and migrants. What it all does is, for the last few days, we've been talking about Nigel Farage and his party, and he probably doesn't mind that, even though there is negativity about it. He balances that up, and he doesn't mind because everyone's focusing on him and not the others.
And that's what he does. That's how he wins things. Or, I mean, not personally, but that's how his party gets more support, is by taking over the airwaves. It's like a malign version of Ed Davey going on a bungee jump.
Well, we'll come on to that later. So election night, we have all the dogs and everything during the day, pictures of dogs. And election night, how does that work for you? Are you in headquarters?
I will be in headquarters. I will have attempted to sleep for most of the day if I can. It doesn't at all bother me if I miss some dogs at polling stations. And sort of late afternoon, early evening, I'll go to HQ and I will stay there until 5 a.m. when the morning guard take over, and I go and get a few hours sleep before coming back again. How about you?
Yeah, same. Although I tend not to sleep very well, so I'll probably be up early on Thursday and just be watching the TV all day. And but I mean, for us on Thursday night, for me, the exciting bit is the exit poll at 10 p.m. I mean, I remember back to 2015 being in the newsroom for that, and it was at the end of the coalition, and David Cameron won a majority, and that was quite a jaw-dropping moment. Although it doesn't, what's happened in the last 5 or 6 years eclipses all of that, but at that time it was quite a jaw-dropping moment, and I remember being in the newsroom thinking, "Wow, this is something." And then when you kind of frantically then trying to get your first editions out, and with online, it's constant now. But try and give the listeners some idea of what we do. There's probably a stack of pizzas and unhealthy snacks in the office. There's lots of editors and news editors shouting around and saying, "Oh, we should do this, we should do that," and there's your calm lobby journalists, political reporters, just serenely bashing away on the keys and getting the first and second and however many editions out there.
Phoning people at counts all over the country.
Well, that's it. And WhatsApping, and if you got any idea. My first ever election that I covered, national general election I covered, was in 2005.
Right.
And I was in Maidenhead, Theresa May.
Wow.
And it was obviously it was a Labour government then, but she was on the up. She was Tory party chair, and it was quite a kind of sedate count, really. She was going to win, but even so, I think she got a 6,000 majority. It's frantic on the night in the count, and both sides, both her and Labour, there was a BNP candidate there actually. And they're not giving anything away beforehand. Theresa May's strutting around, I think, in her leopard print shoes. That was my first ever encounter with her. And anyway, she won, and she was very polite afterwards. Gave me some good quotes and filed it. As polite as she was the other day on that doorbell. Did you see that?
I did.
She's remarkable. I think she was campaigning up in Scotland, wasn't she? And no one was in, so she left a message on the ring doorbell. The ring doorbell. And anyhow, it's always frantic. And for me, like election night, it's the funny stories about you Count Binface standing next to Boris Johnson, or monster raving losing party, things like that. The exit poll, they really get the blood pumping. Yeah,
and ringing people to try and get them to. If you've ever seen an election count, they have long rows of tables, and at the end of each table there will be piles of ballots, and you can try and read the tea leaves by seeing which pile is bigger, and trying to work out between all the tables who's got the most votes. And most of the time you can't tell. Sometimes you can really tell. If there's been a complete rout, then the piles are bigger for one person. You're trying to ring people all night saying, "How big the piles? Can you see anything?" To try and get a bit of insight ahead of time. But we had a longer conversation than you would think in the office about what time to get the pizza in.
Oh, really? What did you plump for in the end?
We went for about midnight for the pizza, because at that point, because you don't want it before the exit poll, because you don't want to be sluggish.
No.
That's
lots
good
of strategy.
Carbs. That you want it as like a sort of pick me up.
Toppings
around. I leave that to other people.
Okay.
A nice variety is always good. One year we got, I think it was 2017. Someone delivered some pizzas to the office that had slices of potato on it, and That's not pizza.
Potato should be nowhere near a pizza.
Nowhere near a pizza.
And then, but you're right. It's a long slog through the night.
Yeah.
I think it peaks. I've had a look at the count times. 4 a.m. is kind of, there's some biggies coming in. Then you've got Sunak, Starmer, and a few other well-known politicians. I think Kemi Badenoch as well. So around that time, you're getting some big names in, and I'm not convinced Rishi Sunak's going to lose his seat, but you never know. But we should. I mean, we should know the result by then.
Yeah, we should.
We should know the result by when the exit poll
by
comes
10. Yeah.
4 a.m. and then we got Liz Truss. She's I think 5 a.m.
How's she doing? How's her polling? I haven't seen her polling. Is she going to win?
I think she is, but I don't think she's going to romp
be
away with it.
Yeah.
And then when everyone's absolutely completely knackered and fed up with it all, then the real action starts, because from about 7 o'clock onwards, you got all the results in.
Yeah.
Depending on the poll, well, if you believe the polls, Rishi Sunak's probably going to come out of number 10 and say, "We've lost the election. I'm going to see the King." Then Starmer will go and see the King, and then he'll go into number 10.
Yeah.
But all by about 8:30 in the morning.
Yeah, I think it was 2017. When did Ed Miliband resign?
2015.
2015.
Yeah.
I went to bed that night at 5 o'clock in the morning. I think I slept for 3 hours and I missed 3 resignations. Came back into the office and 3 people are gone. Yeah.
And of course, what we've got this year is, I mean, most likely is a change. For the past few elections, it's just been the incumbent stays, but now we're having a complete change in government. So there's going to be major figures losing their seats. There's going to be potential Rishi Sunak resigning, although he says is potentially hinting that he might not, but they always say that and then they do.
Yeah, I mean, David Cameron said he wasn't going to resign. They all say that. I don't think he's going to stick around, is he?
No, I don't
think he likes politics very much for a prime minister. I
mean, I was lucky enough to go travel with him to Puglia for the G7 in Italy, and I asked him, "Are you, win or lose, are you going to stick around as prime minister for a full term, or are you going to stick around as an MP for 5 years?" And he said, without missing a beat, yes. And then he trotted out how he loves politics and all that. But I think he'll stick around for a bit.
I'd be amazed. I would be stunned if he's.
You think he's off to California?
Off to California.
Anyway, we're talking as if it's all a done deal, but there's still 2 days to go. You never know. You never know what might happen.
You never know. Unusual things happen, as they did in 2015. Going back to that, the stunned silence was the same in the Mirror newsroom on the evening of the election in 2015 when the exit poll dropped. That I remember very, very well.
Now, this super majority, yes, is it going to happen?
Yeah, I think so.
You think?
If I and we don't talk about it, but if I had to put money on it, I don't put money on things. But if I was a betting man, yeah, probably. Supermajority is a nonsense term though, because it's just a majority.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything you can do really with a majority of 200 that you can't do with a majority of 80, which is what Rishi Sunak's had for the last 18 months. So, or apart from the 1 2
bar all the
yeah, we don't talk about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a worry, but the Tories have obviously been playing on that to try and suppress the vote and bring out their voters. But you can also see why they're going for reform as well, because they need every vote they can get. And it's interesting, this Liam Booth Isherwood, reform candidate in Erisware, has now come out in support of the Tory party. As we mentioned earlier, Reform have had this racism row, and there's other candidates who've been flushed out. These votes could be crucial in making sure the Tories are an effective opposition, and B, reducing any kind of supermajority that Starmer and Labour have.
Yeah, I think reform is really what Rishi Sunak's been scared of all this campaign. Right back to the beginning. What was the first big announcement of this campaign? National service, which everyone thought was really weird, and reform voters thought was a great idea.
But I think that was quite a good thing to kick off with. It was a talker. The voters that Rishi Sunak is trying to appeal to absolutely loved it.
Yeah,
I thought it was a great idea.
And then he went straight into pensions after that. It's been a pretty clear strategy through the campaign. In fairness, and it's only been knocked off by doing silly things like coming home from D-Day early.
It's a shame that the Tories have been quite on the defensive and just targeting elderly voters. And Keir Starmer's got this Ming Vase approach, hasn't he? A phrase which I absolutely hate, and I don't know why I just said it. Can we edit that out, please? But he's got this approach. So essentially it's been quite boring. No one's really kind of throwing any punches. But the Farage coming in certainly spiced it up.
Yeah, it certainly did. And yeah, I think it got people a little nervous that their carefully planned campaigns might just be getting a bit more spicy. But it's not like the Rishi Sunak hasn't committed any number of unforced errors that had nothing to do with Nigel Farage. I don't think if he loses his massive majority, which he does have a sizable majority, I don't think that'll be entirely Nigel's fault.
No. Rishi Sunak, he needed to get a 147, a 9-dart finish, and score a hat trick all in a row, and to give himself and the Tories a chance.
So what was your moment of the week?
There's been a few. Ed Davey chucking himself off doing a bungee jump again. His election midlife crisis continues. That was one for sure. And I think, like Keir Starmer's admittance last night or yesterday, that he's going to clock off at 6 p.m. on a Friday to spend time with his family. I think those are the two moments of the week for me so far. It's Tuesday. We're going to have plenty more moments the rest of the week.
I do think that one's really interesting because, some people are getting quite upset about the clocking off at 6 on a Friday thing, but they're basing their comparison on the last few prime ministers who have been sort of workaholics, maybe a little bit. Maybe not Boris Johnson, but we'll let that slide. But it's like, why would you take lessons from them? They're not a great example about how to be a good prime minister.
But you can't fault them for their work ethic.
You can fault Boris Johnson. He used to have a nap in the middle of the day.
But I genuinely believe this is Starmer's first blunder.
Yeah, it's definitely a line that's got picked up that maybe has been picked up in a way that is not necessarily flattering to him. But at the same time, I think a lot of people will look at that and say, yeah, no, fair play. If you're working 23 hours a day, 7 days a week, then you're not going to make good decisions, are you? And his whole shtick is safe pair of hands. I'm going to be, right the ship and keep everything stable, and you're not going to wake up every morning and think, oh God, what have they done now? That's the whole idea. And maybe if he's got, he's had a nice chat with his family and a good night's sleep.
The other thing that's not been picked up on is and you have to admire him for this. He's always said, I'm not getting my kids involved in politics, not naming them. But then he goes and uses them as a bit of a tool to show that he's a family man, and he's going to spend time with them on a Friday night if he becomes prime minister. Yeah. Maybe that's the cynic in me, but just to make a little point when he knows he's almost there.
Yeah, he's almost there, and I think it's they're going to be standing next to him if he wins. They're going to be standing next to him on the steps of Downing Street for the photos anyway. So I think it sort of makes little difference at this point. But yeah, no, I think you're right. I think it's
Boris's weren't they, were they?
We could say all sorts of things about that, which I think would possibly get us taken off.
Yeah, okay.
Off
We'll leave that
iTunes,
one there.
So let's leave that one there.
Ed Davey, then. What do you make
Davey.
of his campaign so far and the bungee jump this week?
Do you know, I made a joke to a guy who used to work for the Lib Dems. I was talking about this with him in week 1 of this campaign. And I made a joke, which was that the Lib Dems are going to be the first political party to put a skydive on their election spending returns. And it was a joke at the time. And now I'm almost certain it's going to happen.
It's about the only thing left,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
Skydive.
Where do you go from here?
Yeah.
Where do you go from a bungee jump? No, I think he's got lots of pictures of himself in the papers, and you know, like Nigel Farage does his big stuff to get people talking about him. People are talking about Ed Davey, and I think they dropped that brilliant video at just the right time of him talking about being a carer for his son, which was very. I've watched it a bunch of times, and it's it's still affecting. It's a really, really good. You've seen this guy doing clown tricks, but actually this is what I'm about. It was really well timed, and I think I think he's had a good campaign, even though no one really knows what they stand for. They never do. The Lib Dems,
and they're gonna do well, aren't they?
I think they're going to do pretty well. Yeah, yeah. My moment of the week was I spent a little bit of last week on the road in Scotland. I had a little tour of Scotland. I did fly there, which I know may seem a little, considering how many stories I've done about Rishi Sunak's helicopter, might seem a little bit hypocritical. But even the Green Party, let me tell you this, even the Green Party would only ban domestic flights under 3 hours, which can be done under 3 hours on a train. And it was taking me 6 hours to Edinburgh on a train.
Okay.
My conscience is clear. But the reason I went there is I went to Kirkcaldy, which I will never learn how to pronounce. But I met with Gordon Brown and Angela Rayner. We did a little joint interview in the church where Gordon Brown's dad, who his late father, who was a Methodist minister, he used to preach in that church. Right. It was a really nice sort of day, and I thought you can read the sit down interview in on the Mirror website. It was in Sunday's Mirror, but what I sort of couldn't get into that is what they're like with each other. They clearly love each other very, very much. That's a
disturbing thought.
So much affection. It's just really cute. There's so much affection between the two of them. They were talking about how like they've known each other for like 20 years because Angie was like a union official, and she would go to Labour Party conference, and Gordon would say, "Oh yeah, I met your son before I met you," and it was because his son had politics top trumps cards, really? And ran up to him with a Gordon Brown one back in 2005 or whatever. But no, they were finishing each other's sentences. It was really cute, and obviously saying lots of things about how when New Labour were putting together things like tax credits, Gordon just turned round to Angela and said, when we were putting tax credits together, it was people like you we were thinking about. It was that sort of generational sort of link in what they were doing. And he said he was like really excited for it to be. And I think Labour have done a video of this as well, so you can see them interacting with each other. It's really, really. It was. I think possibly the highlight of my campaign. It was really nice.
It's funny. You've got Gordon Brown on the Mirror Splash today as well, haven't you?
We have.
And funnily enough, I was writing about Gordon Brown yesterday, how he raided pensions, which I interviewed Mel Stride, and he was a work and pension secretary, and he was warning that Keir Starmer is just going to repeat history and start raiding pensions again, and pensioners should be warned. They should be fearful.
This is because all the Gordon sold the gold and all that has come up again since he's been talking again. But one thing Angela said on, when was it, Thursday, that sort of stuck with me was she just came out and said sitting right next to him, she said, Gordon's government, people say to me, oh, Gordon's government's criticised for this, Tony Blair's government was criticised for this. And then she just went, but they changed my life. So, you could always pick out the mistakes or the things that didn't go down well with everyone, raiding pensions, whatever. But they made some big changes. And Gordon reckons, and this is interesting as well. This
first
sorry,
Angie Gordon.
Do you know? I got really confused as well because he was on the honours list, and I didn't know whether to call him Sir Gordon or not, and I didn't. And it turns out not a knighthood; he was a companion of honour, which doesn't get a Sir. So I'm glad I didn't call him Sir Gordon because that would have made me look really dumb.
Just say that for Sir Keir. So, predictions? Firstly, I mean, we're both kind of in agreement that it's going to be a Labour victory.
Yeah.
What are your expectations on the night?
I think it's going to be a pretty big Labour victory. I have a bet on with another. Sorry, I shouldn't talk about bets, but
you are a gambling man.
The only bet I have ever placed on politics was like a shake hands tenner that I had. This was about a year ago with another former colleague who thought it was going to be a hung parliament, and I said it was going to be a landslide, and I've kind of stuck to that since. There's nothing that's happened that makes me think it's not going to be a complete rout. And lots of famous people are going to lose their seats. I'm not saying which ones, but some famous people are going to lose their seats.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think the Lib Dems would do well. I think they could be looking north of 50, maybe north of 60 seats. Yeah. And I'm going to make a prediction about reform.
Okay.
I'll probably look like a buffoon come the next episode of the Division Bell, but I'm going to stick my neck on the block and say Nigel Farage is not going to win.
Really?
Really.
Clacton?
Yeah.
Who's going to win? The Tory?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'll probably have egg on my face. But,
I didn't think he was to start with. I think he is now.
I think Reform might win one or two, but he never wins. He never wins.
How about Lee Anderson? What do you reckon?
No, I don't think Lee Anderson. I think probably their best bet is Richard Tice.
Yeah.
And possibly Farage. I'm rowing back already. No, I'm going to stick with that. I just think he never wins, and
he does never win.
We've been here before. We've
this
said
number 8.
Yeah, this is 8. Yeah, last time I remember we were saying he's going to win. This is his best chance. He's riding on the Brexit wave and all that, and he didn't win. So the only difference this time is the Tories are badly damaged and weak.
Yeah.
So I might see him through, but
we shall see.
We shall see. Well,
2
best
days
of luck,
to go.
Mikey.
You too.
It's been great chatting to you this morning.
Yeah.
And I believe we're going to be doing it again in the near future.
Hopefully. So I had a conversation with John where he said, "Be good, but don't be too good." So, I mean, the viewers and listeners will tell us if we've been good or too good. But yes, no, love to do it again. You've been listening to the Division Bell, and you can catch up with us again on Friday on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and the show will also be available to watch on YouTube.
Remember to tell us what issue matters most to you using the hashtag the Division Bell so that we can talk about it on the podcast.
And you can follow us on YouTube at the Division Bell Podcast, on X, or used to be called Twitter, at Daily Express and at Daily Mirror, and on TikTok at Mirror Politics, to let us know what you think about what's been happening.